Well, welcome everybody. This is Big Fat Al, and this is the first episode of Squatch Talk. You can probably hear the raindrops on the roof and on the windshield. I do live in Seattle, so this is a pretty common experience. Although it's March 7th, and we got about an inch of snow last night, which is crazy. No such thing as global warming, obviously. So anyway, what this is going to be, I've been following, semi-researching, doing everything I possibly can, going to seminars, going to summits, anything I can get my hands on for Bigfoot Sasquatch. Saw the PG film late 60s as a kid, scared the crap out of me, but I was hooked, and that was it. Did a little bit in the early 70s to mid 70s. We had some property up in some good squatching land, so we used to go four-wheeling up there all the time. Had some pretty crazy things, I think, happen. Then through the 80s, it was mainly just reading, watching. Didn't really get out much, but now my kids are grown, grandkids. I'm at the position now where I can actually go out and do a little bit, but mainly my focus is just examining everything on the internet, talking to people. I've sat down and talked to Bob Gimlin several times. I just went and saw Ron Moorhead for like the 4th time last weekend, talked to him for a while. I know Christopher Noel, sat down and talked to him for a while. Chris Berkman, Les Stroud, had a drink with him a couple years ago. So I try to put myself out there and try to listen to these people and just absorb it all in like a sponge. So what this is going to be is I'll try to do 1 or 2 of these videos a month. In the comment section, leave comments, topics, what you'd like me to talk about. Yeah, so I told you a little bit about my background, some of the crazy stuff I've had happen back in the late 70s, somewhere around there. Four-wheeling up in the Cle Elum, backside of Cle Elum area. Went down this kind of a barren hillside in the Jeep, and there was a couple trees on this hillside, and underneath one of the trees was an old yellow motorcycle gas tank just sitting there on the ground. Didn't think anything of it. Continued on down the hill, went four-wheeling across Tandem Creek and up the other side for 4 or 5 hours. Come back up that same path up the hill, and something caught my eye. And I looked up, and that yellow gas tank was in the V of a tree. I don't know, I'm guessing 12 to 14 feet up, just nestled, perfectly balanced in that V of the tree. No other trees around, maybe 3 trees on that hillside, and somebody had stuck that gas tank up in that tree in those 4 or 5 hours that we've been gone. Could it have been somebody hauled a ladder up that hillside? Sure. Why would somebody haul a ladder up that hillside? I couldn't tell you. You know, I didn't think much of it other than the not experience at the time, but now I look back at it and, you know, I think it was something warning us or telling us they were there. I don't really know, but years later I went back and that gas tank was still setting up in the crook of that tree. Could still be there now. I haven't gone up there for about 20 years, so I'm not sure. Maybe 15 years ago, something like that, maybe a little longer. Whole family, 2 families, friends of ours, camping at Ike Kinswa State Park on Mayfield Lake up by Morton in Washington. And it was late at night. We were all sitting around the campfire, and all of a sudden we heard what the kids described as monkeys chattering around the camp, mainly behind our camp to the east. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and my daughter too, she's a firm believer. And we just kind of looked at each other. We didn't say nothing, and some of the other people in camp started making noises back to it, kind of copying them, like, you know, and clicks and just chattering. Not necessarily monkey, but nothing we could understand. And it kind of circled around the back of us and on the sides, and they kept chattering at it. It kept chattering at us. This went on for about 20 minutes to a half an hour, not solid, but in patches. And nobody really thought about it. And then at the end, somebody said, "Man, what the heck is that?" You know, and the consensus was among the other people in camp that it was other campers messing with us. So we all went to bed that night. I didn't sleep too easy. Got up next morning, and me and my daughter went for a walk to see if there was people in the camp behind us where the noises were coming from. And lo and behold, we were the last camp in that campground. Behind us was probably, gosh, thousands of square miles of nothing but heavy bush between us, Morton, Randall, and right on up to Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens to the south. So, you know, whatever conclusions you want to draw from that, there was nobody out in that woods messing with us. We were the last campsite, and it was thick, thick brush. We couldn't even find a trail through there. It was thick Washington, you know, woods. We get some pretty thick stuff out here you can't see 10 feet through. So, yeah, that was that one. There's been other things. I didn't know anything about stick structures when I was younger and out motorcycle riding and four-wheeling in the woods, but now I look back and I've seen a lot of them. We just passed them as piles of sticks, you know, we didn't think nothing of it. Now, I mean, I've probably seen hundreds of them out there and never put two and two together, you know, that was anything going on. I've heard some howls, but I'm not familiar enough with the wildlife where I heard them to say they weren't some kind of a coyote and a mountain lion or anything like that, but they sounded a lot like stuff I've heard on the internet. And by the way, I'm really into vocals. That's my thing. I love vocalization, so I'm probably never going to see one, but the chances of hearing one are a lot better than seeing one. So I've got a digital voice recorder that this summer I plan on going for rides and just sitting it somewhere and leaving it, coming back the next day, picking it up, see what I got. You know, the Olympic Mountains are an hour and a half or 2 hours west of me, so that's hot. You know, if you know anything about Sasquatch, the Olympics are hot. I've got Mount Rainier, I've got Mount St. Helens, Ape Canyon. I got all that stuff to the southeast of me, about 4 hours. I've got the Cascade Range an hour away, runs, you know, north-south. So there is more than enough area around here to explore. Now I've got the time to do it. One of the things that always gets me when I watch all these TV shows and videos and stuff are these so-called experts on Sasquatch. Les Stroud summed it up pretty well a few years ago at the Sasquatch Summit when he was sitting up with all the other so-called experts on the panel. And he had had a drink or two. He was feeling pretty good. And he just stood up and he said, listen, there's no goddamn experts on this. And he looked at everybody and says, has anybody caught one? Do you guys have one at home? Can we go see one in a zoo? Nobody's an expert. Sure, people have had more stuff happen to them than others, but until you've got a body, you don't know anything more than I do. You've maybe seen more tracks, you've heard more calls, but you can't prove absolutely any of that scientifically. So get it straight. There are no experts. There are people that have put in more time in the woods and had more experiences and seen more things, but there is no expert. You know, one person can say, oh, that chatter meant this and that chatter meant that. They don't know. You know, they just heard chatter. They can interpret whatever they want, but they don't know, you know. So that's how I feel on experts. Researchers, yes, there's researchers that put boots on the ground 7 days a week, year round. I'm not one of those. I go out when I can. Mostly I just watch internet videos and talk to people in person, go to all the summits and, you know, and roundtable discussions I can go to. I like to listen to other people. For the most part, they're all friendly. They'll give you information. Maybe not where they go, but they'll give you the information. And they, you know, I'm a non-violent guy. I don't carry a gun. My idea is that when you go in the woods, the minute you leave the paved road, even maybe on the paved road, but the minute you leave that paved road onto a dirt road, they know you're there. They are so familiar of their surroundings that they know when there's a camera trap. They probably know where there's a voice recorder, although mine's only about 3 inches long and about a 1/4 inch thick and about 1 inch wide. I can conceal it completely in the palm of my hand. You'd never know it was there. So whether they know that's there, I don't know. But I'm sure they know that there's camera traps. I'm sure they know that people bait them. You're not going to sneak up on one of these things. The only way you're going to see one is if you have a juvenile that's just not good yet and being taught about humans and hiding, or they want you to see them. You know, I do believe that some of them, maybe not all, but some do crave interaction with humans. For what reason, nobody knows. It's kind of like the jumping out in front of a car. I think juveniles do that maybe as a test, you know, bravado, you know, like stupid teenagers. We all did all sorts of stupid stuff when we were a teenager to impress our friends. You know, but there's no reason to believe that in the Sasquatch community, you know, in their groups, there's not special ones like we have humans. You know, there's some that don't have the mental capacity of others. There may be some that are mute, you know, that have no speech. There may be some that are deaf. Now, whether these make it to adulthood, you know, selection of the fittest, I don't know. But there's no reason to believe that they don't have the same kind of oddities and, you know, social ones with less socially inept than others. Maybe those are the aggressive ones. You know, we have aggressive humans, we have passive humans. I think they're exactly the same. What are they? Well, my beliefs, and this is just me, and you know, I don't expect anybody else to believe what I believe, is that they are a relic hominid. I don't believe that they came from spacecrafts. I don't believe that they, you know, just materialize and unmaterialize in different dimensions, and that's how they just disappear. I don't believe they have an aura around them that makes it so they can't be filmed. I do believe that there's something with their fur that when they're moving makes it really hard to focus, and we get a lot of blurry stuff when they're moving. That could just be an adaptation to stay stealthy. Maybe it's taken millions of years to get to that point. But I do like Ron Moorhead, and I'm going to research more into his quantum Sasquatch, quantum physics. I listened to an hour and a half of it last weekend. It's intriguing. I'm not there on that level yet, whether I ever will be. But I like to listen to everybody's views. I've read every book I can find on, you know, interdimensional travel of Sasquatches, alien intervention. You know, could they be Sasquatch, be aliens? Maybe not. Are they crossbred from aliens and put on Earth? I don't know. Like I said, my feelings run more on the scientific side of a relic hominid that's just been hidden and not found. I mean, come on, guys. If you've ever been to the Olympic Mountains, the Cascade Mountains, down around Mount St. Helens, you can look for hundreds and hundreds of miles at almost virgin, if not virgin, forest. Man, if you are camouflaged and you are self-reliant and self-contained, you can disappear in those forests forever. You know, they can stand 10 feet from you behind a big enough tree, or maybe even a small tree. They just blend in, and they know how to hide. Obviously, most of them's interaction with humans has not been super positive, so they don't want to be around us. But I do believe there are those ones that are seeking some kind of interaction with humans, and I think those are ones we see. You know, I think Roger and Bob, I think they were just in the right place at the right time. And also, just think of how the Sasquatch research and community has, you know, grown 1,000,000% since that video came out. Before that, we were more of an oddity to them, and they were curious. Now everybody's out in the woods looking, you know, everybody's aware. So I think they're more elusive now. I think back then you had a lot better chance of seeing them. Obviously they got that film. You know, there's I've got a cast from the PG film. It's a repo, but I've got a cast. I've also got a cast from who's the other guy down in the Blue Mountains? I'll remember his name in a minute. But he's got a great video. Him and the PG film, I think, are the two best ones. Timber Giant Bigfoot's Big Red, I think, is awesome. And there's one or two more from the swamps down in Florida where the one stands up and's ripping tree bark. You know, you just got to look at the surroundings. Why would somebody be there? Especially the ones in Florida. Why would there be a human standing in the swamp with alligators? Big Red, you know, I mean, he's sitting there and he's cracking nuts. If you really wanted to hoax one, you would get more of it on video. Or, you know, I mean, it could be a hoax. It could be, you know, they didn't want to show too much to make people think, just like I just said, that why would you hoax something and just film the back of its head? You know, it's, you know, you got the Rick Dryers out there. You've got the Todd Standings, and I don't care what anybody says. I think Todd Standing is a total, just he's just an ass. I don't think any of his stuff is ever going to be believable. You know, I hope he's not the one that actually proves it's real, because it's going to be a hard uphill road for him, because not a lot of people put any stock into anything that he puts out. Same with Rick Dreyer. You know, if you want to know the truth, I don't want him to be found. I like the allure. I like the mystery. I like the going out and searching. I like seeing a new thing on the internet and wondering, ooh, is this the real thing? You know, I like that, and I think most people do. Cascade Bigfoot, he's awesome. He actually gave me the idea to start doing this. You know, he had a whole half-hour video about kill or not kill. They were going to kill. They had the plans. They had a winch. They had shotguns. They had rifles. They had this thing timed down. They ran drills to see how long it would take them to get in the back of the truck to drag it down the road. They had it down to a T. I think they would have succeeded. But at the last moment, they decided, well, you know, one of them decided that he just couldn't do it. You know, they're too much human. You know, you won that 1% chance that the one you shoot is really somebody in a suit. You know, maybe in court you could get by with it, you know, because they were in a suit and self-defense, whatever. But it's really hard to see one of these things, I assume, and believe that it means harm, unless it's coming at you, of course, and then it is self-defense. But to plan a murder of one of these things, I think he finally woke up one day and he just said, my God, I can't do this. What the hell am I doing? And it split the two apart. Him and Doug haven't talked since then. Doug wanted to kill. Doug had it all planned out. They put a lot of time and effort and money into it. And then he backed out. And I guess him and Doug are no longer speaking. You know, you hear about him in urban areas. I don't know. Maybe if where they were is getting developed and they need more space, or they're hungry or something, they might come in. I know there's places in Alaska, there's one on an island up there, where routinely they see him walking down alleys and streets and getting into garbage cans. But my problem with that is, if this is a routine thing and they see him all the time, how come there hasn't been every researcher in this community up there hiding out on somebody's back porch and film them? You know, oh, well, they don't come around when people are filming. Well, if these things are wandering down an alley and they're rummaging through garbage cans, I think they're more concerned about the food. Obviously, that's what they're there for. Than somebody hiding in an attic with a hole the size of a quarter drilled through the siding and a little spy camera pointing out. I think that would be the least of their worries. I think they're hungry if they're in there. The other thing, I just wrote down some notes here, you can see, so I wouldn't ramble too long and forget things I wanted to talk about. Justin Smaja, the guy who shot the Bigfoot. Watched an interview with him a couple weeks ago, and you know, I don't know, just interesting. I just like a sponge. I just want to gather up all this info. He said something that after he shot the adult and he went over, and there was a young one there, and he looked through his scope, but he was right on top of it. I mean, I guess he was like 4 or 5 feet away, right on top of it, pointing down, and the thing's looking up and trying to talk, and he shot it, he says. And whoever was narrating this said, why did you shoot it? He says, I didn't know what else to do. Well, how about you put the gun down, and I know you had a cell phone, film it. Just film it. I mean, that would have been probably the best proof we've ever had. You could interact with it until you got scared that the others were coming after you. You still have your gun, but don't shoot it, film it. He could have had 10, 15, 20 minutes of interaction with this thing. He could have touched it. He could have filmed it. He could have filmed its vocal, its face. He could have proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that these things were real, yet he chose to shoot it. So that put up a red flag on whether it really happened or not. You know, that's just some of my beliefs. I don't really have anybody to talk to. I've got a couple Bigfoot friends, but we just converse emails and stuff like that. One of them flaked out on me. We were supposed to meet up at that person's house who lives in the Olympics and hears vocals off their back porch all the time. I was going to go out for a weekend, set up voice recorders, hang out all night on the deck with, I was going to try to buy a night vision before I went, and then they just disappeared off the face of the earth. So they're gone. So that one's done. So all the Facebook groups, you know, it's kind of funny with these Facebook groups, they're all kind of lean one way or another. And so if you're not part of what they believe, okay, let's say there's one that believes that pro-kill. If you go in there non-kill, boom, you get booted. There's some that believe that they are an ape, Gigantopithecus, that's just hidden. If you think that maybe they're not, boom, you're cut off from the group. I haven't found a group yet. I started one on Facebook called Having Fun with Bigfoot. You can look it up on Facebook. Just to kind of wander around people's feelings, make it pretty lighthearted, not so serious, maybe funny Bigfoot commercials, stuff like that, just to, because what I find is there's people that believe but they don't want to admit it, and I can't believe that in this day and time that people wouldn't admit they believe. It's not a big, huge deal. Nobody's going to think you're nuts. I'm a school bus driver. I drive special ed kids, and I mentioned something about going to a Bigfoot conference, and 3 or 4 of them one day said, Bigfoot isn't real. And I said, why do you say that? Oh, there's no bodies. I've never seen one. And I said, so have you ever come across a body of a bear, or have you ever seen a Tasmanian devil? Well, no. Well, are they real? Well, yeah, they're real. Why? You've never seen one. And it got funny, and we talked and stuff, and I don't care if they believe. I just like the open conversation. I like people to voice their opinions. I don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with mine. That's cool. But, like my daughter outwardly believes, my grandson believes. I'm not sure about my son. I know my wife does, but she won't admit it. But she never says no. She just kind of steers the other way. That's good. I want this to be people, if you believe that they come from alien intervention, send a comment. I'll do some reading up and send what you want to say, and I'll look into it. I'm not, just because I have beliefs of the way they are doesn't mean that is it, because I am no expert, just like nobody else. So I'll try to do one of these, every couple weeks when I can. When the weather gets nicer, I'll maybe do them on the weekend out somewhere. Maybe I'll go for a ride out, up in the mountains and sit in the field somewhere and do one of these. Maybe something will happen behind me. Who knows? That's the other thing. I am a firm believer that, and Cascade Bigfoot proved this, that you can hide a camera in your backpack and film behind you, and you are probably going to find something. I have been saying this for probably 15 years. I just never had the means to get a camera. I didn't have the time to go out raising kids and stuff, but that's all done now, so I can do it. I know that, you walk by, they'll stick their head out, or maybe they'll cross the trail. Something is going to happen behind you. And I think they're quick enough that if you start to turn around, they are gone. So, yes, I plan on buying a cheap GoPro, the smallest one I can find. I'm going to cut a hole in my backpack. Backpack's right here. And just walk around, I do believe, and I got this from Ron Moorhead believes this also, I've always believed that they can sense what your intentions are. If you go in there with, ammunition strapped across your chest, and you've got, a rifle, hunting rifle with a scope on the back, and you got 2 sidearms, chances are they're probably going to avoid you. But if you go out there and make a lot of noise, set up your camp chair, turn on your little radio, look at a magazine, read a book, I think they know that you're not there for any harm. Whether they know you're there looking for them or not, I don't know. But I don't think that they see you as a threat. And even though these things, one-on-one with somebody without a, well, hell, 1-on-20, if you don't have a gun, I don't think you're a threat. I think they could dispatch just about anything they want pretty easily. And so I think weapons make a big deal. I think, like I've got a camera trap because we bought some property last year. We bought 2 pieces of property in Ocean Shores, Washington. And I didn't even think about Sasquatch activity down there until I went to the Sasquatch Summit down at the Quinault Beach Resort. I go every November. And there was a woman there with a booth, and she's in Ocean Shores. She's got all these casts. They got a butt print. They got all this stuff that happens in and around Ocean Shores. And I'm like, whoa, cool. I just bought some property there. So I looked at her map, and we talked for a while. We're going to meet up this summer and maybe go look around. Her map has where all these footprints have found, where people have seen them, where they found any kind of sign of them. Because apparently they go, Ocean Shores is a peninsula. There's Grays Harbor on one side, there's the Pacific Ocean on the other. So they've got to come down the peninsula from north to south to get into Ocean Shores. There's a lot of woods. There's a huge deer population. Oh my God, there's thousands of deer in Ocean Shores. They just wander the roads, they wander through your property. They have no fear of humans whatsoever. They stand in the middle of the road and they just look at you. They do not care at all. There's coyotes. We saw the biggest coyote I've ever seen in my life 2 weekends ago there. I think had to be over 100 pounds. This thing looked like a wolf. We have a bear. We have black bears. We were sitting at our campfire. Now, mind you, we have houses all around us. It's a neighborhood. We just have raw property. So we pull our RV on there. And we're just sitting by the campfire, 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning in the sun, and a big old huge black bear comes out of the bushes right behind me. And we ran into the trailer, and he just sniffed our seats and wandered off. I found some scat that I took to a friend who's a biologist, and she said it looked like big cat. So I think we have cougar, mountain lion in there. So anyway, for Christmas, I found an old camera trap, brand new, for 20 bucks. It's an older model. It's like 5 or 7 years old. It's kind of bigger. I bought it. I'm going to set it up there to see what comes through. Now, the path that they follow through Ocean Shores is between Polaris Street and another one about a quarter mile away. Well, our property is one street off of the sand dunes, and it's right there between those two streets, right off of Polaris. So, and we have raw woods, so it'd be a good place for them to travel through. We have found some trails where deer and stuff have been coming through. I have to duck. I'm 6 foot tall. I have to duck to go through them, but it doesn't say that Sasquatch wouldn't duck too to go through. So I'm going to put up the camera trap. It's only mainly to see deer, see if we do have cougar coming through. Because we have grandkids, and we take them there and let them run around. So I just like to know what's in the bushes. Maybe I'll catch something. You know, maybe I'll get Sasquatch walking through our. I don't know. It was a $20 camera trap, and it's just going to sit there year round. And I'll check it every time we go. We go once or twice a month. So who knows what's going to happen. So anyway, I guess I'm going to call this quits on this one. If you have any ideas, any topics, or want to tell me I'm crazy, hey, I can take it. I'm 56 years old. I've been called a lot worse names than crazy. So it's called Squatch Talk. I'm Big Fat Al, and adios for now. See ya.